Hello and welcome to part one of the beginner handstand series. This part is all about wrist prep. Wrist prep is very important for your handstand practice as your hands and forearms are just not used to taking the load that you were going to put on them when you start practicing handstands. So we're going to look at two different options, no equipment and with equipment, to develop stronger wrists to help your practice move along faster. Number one is the wrist flexion raise. This is probably the most important drill you need to know. So how are we going to do it? Hands spread wide, place them on the floor, shoulder width apart. I want your shoulders over your hands and the weight in your hands. Shoulder should be somewhere between the wrist and the knuckle. From this position, I want you to wind your elbows forward, squeezing your lats. This part. And we're going to keep the weight over the hands and press the palm off the floor. Now, up and down needs to be controlled. If you can't control one of these movements, move your knees forward. If it's getting too easy, move your knees further back. The second drill we're going to look at is a reverse wrist push-up, and this is going to develop the strength in your wrists this way. So this helps reduce pressure of all the standing on our hands we're going to be doing. So I want hands bent like so. Wrists on the ground. Use a squishy mat, it helps. Full range push-ups, please. The last drill we're going to look at is a wrist deviation. Basically using the fist to rock forwards and backwards. We're moving the wrist like so. The setup is the same as a wrist flexion raise. Shoulders over the hand, weight in the hands, and you rock forward onto the index finger and knuckle. And you rock back, bending the elbow slightly so the weight's in your pinky finger. Now we're going to look at some weighted options. If you don't have equipment, the no equipment version is the simplest way to go. If you do have some equipment, then you can tangibly track using weight what you're doing. The setup for a wrist flexion curl. Kneel or use a bench. Push the elbow down into the thigh. We go from an extended position to a flexed position. So this is the same movement as a wrist flexion raise. Anytime we're doing a unilateral exercise, one side, we've got to do the other side too. So you switch your setup over. Now we're going to do the opposite. So we're going to do wrist extension. Same setup as the wrist flexion raise. We're going to use a lighter weight because these are a lot harder. And everyone is weaker here than they are in wrist flexion. Unilateral exercise, we do both sides. The last thing we're going to cover is our wrist deviation. So holding a stick, the closer you hold the stick to the end, the harder this will be. Closer to the middle, the easier. So we reach the arm out. I like to support the tricep with my hand. Let the stick fall, lift. Control down, control up. Then we do the other side. Stand for this one. Holding the stick, lifting from the floor, control back down. Lift, control, lift. And that's it, start off with your wrist prep. making sure you take care of your wrists and strengthen them is the best thing you can do to start your handstand practice. You can't underestimate the pressures you will be putting on the joint here, and we just don't have the same conditioning that our feet have, and we're going to be using these guys like feet.